All right. So this is based on my limited experience with breakout rooms, which has been, I think, every real day of instruction, maybe one time during orientation week. Oh yeah, definitely one time during orientation week. They updated the extension the first day of last week, so that was fun. And it didn't quite work the way I expected it to, but then when I checked it yesterday, preparing to tell you how it doesn't work and how to work around, it worked. So the workaround is in these slides, but also it's going to be easier than I thought it was. And speaking of these slides, there they are in case you want to make a copy, because I'm going to talk really fast. Okay, so in these slides, since you can make a copy, this is a direct link to the developer's instructional video. He also has several more. The man has put together a 45-minute user demo that is in his YouTube with this. So I think he's definitely committed to the extension, which is cool. There's the link to the actual extension. I'm going to try and drop that over here as well. So, all right, Leah, let me fix that. Oh, I hate these defaults. All right, that should work now. If you don't have the extension installed, you might want to install it. Can anybody confirm that you have access to the slides now? I think I fixed it, but all right, thank you, Leah. So when you install it, I'm not sure because I pinned mine. I think probably you should pin it up here so that you see the little icon. Do you want a moment to do this so that you have it done?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Watching everybody's faces go like this is really going to be the highlight of my day.
I should really start playing background music, really low key, calm,
Surely there's an app for that
in the background. I think it's Pandora. And every once in a while there will be an ad just to remind us.
Hey, Laurie, I have it, but I don't see it up on that bar. I have too many other things.
Click on this little thing, whatever that thing is supposed to be. I don't know what we call that thing, but it's for manage extensions.
Oh, I see it.
I had to pin mine and then it shows up there.
Gotcha. Okay, I see it now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does Katie have a Christmas tree up?
That is the chemistry.
Laurie, do all the kids have to have the Chrome extension? They do not. Okay, thanks.
It doesn't impact their experience at all. It just, basically what it does is it does a nice job of opening a bunch of meets on your screen, and it reads the names of who's logged into the first meet and allows you to randomly sort them into different groups and gives you some copy paste tools to tell the kids to go to those different meets. So they don't have to do anything on their end. It's totally handled on your end. Please wave at the screen if you want more time. All right, nobody is screaming panic, so I'm going to move on. All right, so again, these slides are here for reference later, but I'm going to show you. So what you do is you click on the Breakout Rooms tab, and all right, so up here, if you click on Courses, then this toolbar exists pretty much throughout this extension. So it's pretty easy to figure out, add things, save things, undo things, subtract things, give up and go home. So on the Courses tab, I think that my course is there by default. And if you use the same Google nickname for everything you teach, you don't need to do anything here. You can just stick with my course. But I have different meet names for my engineering course as I do for my pre-calculus course, so I have two courses set up. I don't think you need different bells unless you have different nicknames for every single one of your bells. So if you create a course, and then, or multiple courses, depending on what you need, then you can go to Rooms. And inside Rooms, there's this drop down where you can say which course you want to build rooms for. So I'm going to go create a course called Demo so that I don't mess things up right before my second bell class. And I'll hit Save. And then if I come over to Rooms, I can choose my course Demo. And then down here where it says Main, this is the nickname or the URL address or the short code for whatever your main room is. So we are currently in WH Math Nuts. And this is going to sync up with wherever your the room that your kids are coming to. So ideally it should be where your kids meet you or where an administrator might look for you. And then I can hit add and you can name them whatever you want. So I'm going to call this Breakout 1. And Breakout 2. And I'm hitting add and I'm copy pasting.
Laurie, while you're doing this, do you do this ahead of time or do you do this like while your kids, so like for your other classes, are all of these like breakout room, breakout 2 already saved? Okay,
yep,
perfect.
They are already set up. I'm mostly doing this so that you can see it. And if you're trying to high speed along with me, you can do it, but you don't have to. You can set it up later. So I'm going to set up 4 breakout rooms. We've got 19 people in here right now. That's plenty. Right here is when you're going to click on one of the other tabs and go, crap, I forgot to save. So I'm going to hit save because I've made that mistake about 7 times already. So I reminded you here on the slides to hit save. Now you might notice that these change colors depending on what you put in. If you don't put in a nickname here, if you leave it completely blank, it's blue or purple because it's going to assign a URL. So if I hit save now, it will assign a random URL. However, keep in mind that since that's not a CPS like limited access thing, if you give that to kids, they could give it to somebody else who could get in since we care about all that. So I'm going to put that back. This is really annoying when you try to like select all the backspace, it drags things around. But if you use tab to tab through them, then it selects it all, which makes it less annoying. So I'm going to hit save. All right, so that's creating your rooms. So far we created a course or 2, and then we created our rooms. I might not have given you time to do it with me, but that's what I just did. Now you're ready to use it for your classes whenever you want to use it for your classes. So I have saved and I'll come back here to the main like Meet tab up top. These little bars down here, most of them expand when you click on them. So when you're ready to actually start a class, you're going to click on Start Class, and then you can choose which course you want to use and how many breakout rooms you want available. This breakout room tab, before you use it the first time, if you forget to use it, you'll be like, why doesn't this work? But then it saves your setting the next time. So if you always have 4 available or 6 available, it'll be there. Right here where it says open or sync main room, that like gets the extension connected to the Meet that you already have open. You can do this step before your kids ever arrive. So once it's set up, you can just open the Breakout Rooms extension and you can say open main room and that will open it and kids will join the way that they normally do and they won't have any idea that you've done anything differently. Or if like this session, we're already in the Meet and then we want to do it, we can do it now. So I need to say sync rooms. I'm going to bring you guys over to the screen for a moment so that you can see. We might lose the slides there. So notice up here how it just has like whatever the crazy generic code is that it assigned when we opened this nicknamed Meet. When I hit open or sync main room,
Laurie, you're muted.
Thank you, Erin. I also disappeared. So that's one of the cool things. As soon as Breakout Rooms opens, it puts you in whatever you need and it automatically mutes you and hides you, which, you know, in theory is a good thing, but I often forget about. So hopefully you'll have a student who's as kind as Erin and will say, we lost you. So this little pop-up down here, or not pop-up, but it changes your display down at the bottom. I'm going to close this chat so I have a little bit more room. So we have a mute the entire tab, which prevents me from hearing all of you, and then the standard kind of stuff. The check mark is part of Google Meet attendance, so that's why I have that there. All right. Oh, we're having our Meet. Everything's normal. The kids haven't noticed anything different, although I have synced up my class. Let me check my slides. All right, next thing that we would do is we would assign students to rooms. So if we click on this assign breakouts ad hoc, the directions are right here, which is really nice. But if I scroll down, these are the people that are currently in this call. And these early on, I said I wanted 4 rooms. Right back here, I chose that I wanted 4 rooms. And so now if I say randomly assign, it will put each of you in those 4 rooms randomly. And you can move them. So if you notice like, oh, those 2 should not be in the same room together, you can drag somebody to a different place. If it will put you in one of the rooms as well. So like, I don't want to be one of the 4 or 5 people in the room. So I'll pull myself out of there and I'll pull somebody else down here. And now I can see that there are 4 or 5 people in each room. And now you just need to tell the students what their assignments are and where they're going to go. So there's this click here button. Again, I'm still in the assign breakouts spot. So if I say click here, then this just creates an easy to copy paste thing. So it gives you the links first, and then it gives you the kids. I like to tell the kids where they're going before I give them access to where they're going. So I actually copy paste this one first and say, all right, I'm going to copy that. And then if I come over to the chat and I paste it, then this tells everybody in this Google Meet where they're going in a minute. So they can take a moment and find their name and figure out what room I'm telling them to go to. It does not force them into rooms. It just makes it easy for you to assign them and copy paste directions. And now if I click on this other one, say copy and paste.
Laurie, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I went ahead and had breakout rooms running. As like so is it going to interfere with the fact that you're being like the teacher running it right now? And if so, how do I turn it off?
I do not think that it's going to interfere. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it's going to interfere.
Okay, cool. That sounds good.
So are you guys seeing my screen go out of control right now? I hit the open sync breakouts button. Normally I would hit that before I tell the kids where to go, because otherwise the absolute fastest kid will get there first and say, it doesn't work. So normally I would open that first, but I kind of forgot to do that. So it will tile them on your screen. Hang on, let me get these a little bit more workable.
Laurie?
Yeah.
When you posted that list of names in the different breakouts, should it have shown up in our chat? Oh, it did.
Yeah.
It just, my chat just wasn't scrolled down far enough. Sorry, thanks.
Yes.
I
And
just thought it would automatically scroll.
And did this get fixed for you? Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, I'm going to make this meet smaller. Okay, so right now I'm working on my laptop screen, which is not as big as the monitor that I attach it to, but it'll be easier to share with you guys like the picture-in-picture version of this. Why isn't anybody else in Erin Kenny's room with her? She's all alone in that room. So this first, like, hey, go to your rooms experience made me feel kind of manic. Like I was an air traffic controller whose planes were all about to crash. Also, apparently, I turned on captions in this one room by accident. As these panels get smaller, I have the tendency to click on, like the buttons kind of overlap, which is one of the glitchy things. But, you know, I don't really care. It's still worth it. I'm going to turn off the captions, though, and try and look back at my slides. Okay, so I assigned the kids to rooms. Now, currently you all are hearing me through the main room, not through your individual rooms. In your individual rooms, you should be able to unmic yourself and talk to each other. Before I sent you there, so this kind of, it's rough this morning, my apologies. Let me flip back to this and remind myself. So I told the students where to go already. That's in the slides. Okay, these are actually the directions that I share with students. So I gave them to you just based on my last couple of days of experimentation. Since I would imagine this is really tiny on the screen right now, I'm just going to tell you what they are, since hopefully you can hear me. Before I ever tell the kids where to go, I give them these directions for how this is going to work. I ask them not to leave the main meet, because this is where I'm going to make announcements. They can hear me through the main meet. So if I am talking to an individual room, I do need to make sure that I mute myself in the main meet, or everyone will hear me. So I use my main meet kind of in the same way that if I were in my classroom and I wanted to shout to all of the groups, 5 minutes until we're done with group work, that's how I use my main meet, as like speaking to all of my groups. So I tell them here that I will make announcements through the main meet, and that way they can all hear me. And then I try to make everything like analogous to small group work in my classroom. So I tell them that in each of their small rooms, they will see my icon, which means that I could hear them at any time, but I'm not necessarily paying attention to that particular group at any time. That in the classroom, you know, I might hear them from across the room, even if they're not trying to teach or not trying to talk to me, but I might hear them. But at the same time, if they mutter under their breath, "Hey, Cotton, we need help on number 2, I might not notice that. So the way for them to call me over and help their group is to post in the main chat. So if they go back to the main room and they post something there like, "Hey, we need you in room 3, then so I will keep the chat on over here in the main room, so that is their way of calling me over. I tried this a couple different ways the first 2 days and realized, okay, I need a better plan. The extension itself has this cool broadcasting feature, which worked beautifully when I tested it at home the night before and had my own children in meets, and then crashed and burned when I was at school and had 30 people in the meet and was on the school Wi-Fi. So the broadcasting thing, when you watch his demo, is really neat. Like, you can just push the button and jump from room to room to room. In my experience, it wasn't fast enough to be functional here at school. So if I go back to this. So my laptop is lagging, having all of these meets open. I feel like I missed one direction for students, which is that when they go to their rooms, I usually tell them to turn off their camera in the main room. The reason why I do this, and I don't tell them, but if they're in their own small room, like, you know, making all kinds of crazy gestures and they forget that their camera is on in the other one, anybody who wanted to could see that. And so I kind of tell them it's a way for them to show me that they've gone to their room versus coming back from their room. In reality, I'm having them shut their cameras so that they don't accidentally do all of their gesticulating in front of other people. Also, for the kids whose internet is dragging, the fewer cameras that are on, the better it'll be for their particular internet. So if everybody turns their cameras off in the main room, it's easier for those kids. The meeting with different groups. I tell my kids, like, my chosen policy for working with this is that when I am in their rooms and actively paying attention to them, I'll turn my camera on. So if I go into breakout room or breakout 1 and I turn my camera on and I turn my mic on, I won't do this for long because I know it's echoing in your ears, breakout room 1. Okay, sorry about that, breakout room 1. If you have your mic on in 2 rooms, then the people in that room can hear you twice. So when you bounce from room to room, you'll want to turn your mic off in the main room. So I'm going to turn my mic off in the main room for just a quick minute, which means it will seem like I'm gone. And so if I go back to the main room and turn my mic back on there, now everybody should be able to hear me again. Mr. Barrett likes to joke that that's the voice of God coming in, because you'll be doing your own group things and then suddenly, see, I call it the Hunger Games style, when I'm like, how are you doing? Because they forget that I'm there and that I'm announcing. So that is everything I wanted to say. It took me 22 minutes. I've got another probably 15 before I'm going to feel stressed about class. So good luck, have fun. I'm here if you have questions. I know that something just popped up in the chat.
I just want to say this is very overwhelming at the very beginning, and I was completely overwhelmed, and then I just jumped in with 2 feet and it went fine. The kids don't see it as clunky, so if anybody wants to practice with other people and you being the administrator, I would highly suggest that, because then you can like set up your rooms and that all saves, and so then when you go to do it with your kids, they're already there, and if you don't practice, it'll be fine also.
Yes, thank you for that, Emma. I know a couple people have tried it, and again, the first day I did it, I felt completely overwhelmed, like completely panicky overwhelmed. And there was at least one point when the kids in the room were hearing me twice, and it took me a while to figure out that I was double mic'd. And once I stopped turning my mic on in individual rooms, unless I was actively paying attention to that room, it kind of solved that problem. So let me copy this slide thing into the chat one more time, since there may have been people that got here after I did that.
Also, I did not see a limit to how many rooms you could make. John Calgary asked that question. But at the same time, like I set up 10 rooms because I only wanted 3 people per group. But then in one of my classes, I had fewer people. So when you set up your classes, she said like you can pick how many. She's showing us right now. I made 10 rooms, but then when I was in a bell that had fewer kids, I just chose to use fewer. So anyways.
Thank you, Emma.
Laurie, does it ever happen that you forget a student to put in?
Say that again, Rajni, I couldn't hear you.
Does it ever happen that you forget to put a student in any group?
So if the student is not on the main meet when you hit the randomly assign button, so if somebody had joined in after I assigned, then they wouldn't have been in this list, in which case they will typically either look in the chat and go to their own room, or go, I'm not on one of the lists, what do I do? And then you can look real quickly and send them to whatever room has fewer people. Last week I had to use the URLs because the nicknames weren't working, so it was a little bit clunkier for me to find the address and copy paste it. But since the nicknames are working today, and I know that my nicknames are really simple, like in engineering, our main nickname is WHENG, so I could just tell them, go to nickname WHENG2, or whatever. You can copy paste them for sure to tell a kid if they were missing anything.
And then students don't see all the 4 groups, like we are seeing all 4 groups here.
No, you are only seeing all 4 groups right now because I'm sharing my screen. So if I stop my share for a moment. All right, so now I am no longer presenting to you, and I would expect that you have our main meet open and that you have one more breakout room open if you went to it. If you didn't go to the breakout room, or if you've already left, then you only have our main meet, because I'm no longer sharing the control panel. But I wanted to share what it looked like, because from the teacher side, you do kind of need to have all of these different meets open. The biggest thing that, yes.
Anne Ramsey asked, what kind of things do you do with your students in breakout groups?
Oh, thank you. When my students are in breakout rooms, they are working in small groups the same way that they would in the classroom. So the biggest reason why I would say give this a try is because in my experience, even though I'm doing my absolute best, after 45 minutes, the collective body language in my black box screen is kind of like this. And then as soon as I put them into breakout rooms, they're like, and that is really wonderful. So we did a TI calculator activity or something on Thursday that I would normally have them working in small groups on. So we did like 45 to 60-ish minutes of lesson. And then the last half an hour of our 90-minute block, they were in small groups doing their homework. And some of them stayed through lunch, which was crazy. It is easy to like release them from the main room because I can say like, okay, we are now ready to officially dismiss. If your group is done, everybody wave at the camera. And then I can tell that, you know, the whole group A hears me, B has agreed on something. I try to give them little hints every once in a while that are just reminders that I can still see them so that they don't disappear. So little things, you can do little check-ins like that. Like if everything's going okay, thumbs up, and then you'll see this in all of the rooms and they'll know that you see them and whatever. That's just
Can you kick a kid out the same way that you remove them from one of your side rooms?
I believe that you can. Well, yes, you definitely can because you are
Just
still
like in case they like go to lunch and then forget that they had that tab open.
Say that again, Katie.
Like if they went to lunch and forgot that they had their tab open and that they didn't close it, like and that one kid's still there.
Yes, I just kicked you out of your room.
I accidentally kicked the kid out of a room and they couldn't get back in. I had to assign them to another group.
I just kicked Katie out of her room, so she probably won't be able to get in. And now, Bill, you're all alone. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I have a question. I feel like they've told us multiple times that if we don't like make sure all the kids leave the room before we close it, you know, or we don't hang up, the kids can come back in and all that jazz. So what happens if I forget to do that and like I just close the boxes because I forget? Can they all just like come back to that meet whenever they want?
I think that if they are in it when you leave, then they can stay in it. I think if they completely leave, then they can't get back in unless you restart it.
Got it.
I think.
And so using them nicknames in this fashion would be more secure than randomly assigning the URLs. Okay.
And the nicknames did not work on this last week, but they do work now, which makes the whole thing easier. So Emma, when we were figuring out how to do that like copy paste sync up business, we don't have to do that anymore.
Laurie?
Yeah.
If they get booted from their breakout room, they are not booted from the main meet, or they are?
Because they're different meets. It would be like if I kicked a kid out of pre-calculus, they are not blocked from attending English. They're different meets.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
So if you were to kick somebody out by accident of that meet, you could open up a new one and tell the kids in that meet, like, hey, I screwed up. Please go join your friend here instead.
Perfect.
Since things get small on the screen, it's easy to click the wrong buttons by mistake. What other questions? Anything else? At the end of these, I'm going to present these slides again.
The students can't leave a room on their own, can they?
So right down to here, where these are just my student directions. You can make your own student directions, but that's what I do. After here is the information about broadcasting, which when you watch his video is really super cool, but I have found doesn't work here at school. I don't know if it just needs a more powerful laptop or faster Wi-Fi, or if it just doesn't work if you have too many people on, I don't know. After this, there are these slides that say if nicknames don't work. This is what I was anticipating kind of teaching today, because this is the way I had to do it all of last week. But then nicknames started working. So hopefully nicknames will work for you too. But if when you do your setup, after you put in your nicknames here, and then if you say start class and you open sync a room and you get errors like this is an invalid code, then there's a workaround at the end. I do think that it was an error in the extension and the developer has fixed it. So I think as long as you're logged in with your CPS account, it'll work for you too. But FYI, that's what these things at the end are about.
Hey, Laurie.
Yeah.
Can a kid leave a room on their own? The breakout room?
Yes. The breakout rooms are just multiple meets. It just basically helps you open up a lot of meets and assign kids randomly and tell them where to go.
And if they accidentally log out of that room and they shouldn't have, then
if they accidentally leave a meet, then that's one of the reasons I like to have the main meet open all the time. So I have experienced a couple kids like their internet cutting out and them coming back a minute later to regular class. And so that same kind of thing could happen. And so if they pop into the regular room, they'll probably either turn on their mic or they'll say in the chat, like, I got kicked out or my internet cut out. I'm back. I don't know where to go. And then you can tell them, you can either copy paste the link into the chat again and they'll see it, or you can tell them, just keep in mind that anytime you speak in the main meet, every single student can hear you because you're asking them not to leave that main meet and you're using that as your broadcasting tool. So if you are answering an individual question in the main meet, it would be like answering that question in front of your entire class.
Thank you, Laurie, for taking the time to show us all this.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here to help. It's much easier to show demo or to show breakout rooms when you can put people in them. So I thought very briefly last week when maybe it was Bill asked for this, I thought, oh, I'll make a video, but it doesn't work as well. Trying to make a video, I appreciate being able to put people in rooms. So, and Emma, thank you for your help since you've done it too.
I have a quick question. So I went back and I looked and I like made my 8 breakout rooms because that's like usually what I do for Pogles. I have them in groups of 4. So I changed it to a nickname rather than the URL. Will they have to like open a new meet and type that nickname in, or does it give them a direct link like we did here?
What I gave you here was, let me show the.
Because you did it like you would do with adults where there's just a URL, right?
No. I did.
Okay, so I clicked a link and it took me straight to it.
Yes, and
so scroll back up and look. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it uses like Google lookup or something is how it. Yeah, it adds meet.google.com/lookup in front of the nickname, and apparently that's how nicknames work.
Perfect. Thank you.
And to get all of this started, if like we all exit out and we all just want to try it on our own, we just like leave this room and then go click on our new extension up on the top right. And then I should be able to go there and fix my names.
Yes, because you probably have URLs from when we were doing this last week. Okay, I'm going to stop recording this meeting, but I'll hang around if anybody still has questions for a little bit.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm going to go.
Okay, thanks for your help.